Foundry is a voxel-based factory automation game currently available as limited demo on Steam for a limited time. Main reference points for this review would be Satisfactory, Factorio, and to some extent Space Engineers. All three are the games that I have played hundreds and thousands of hours, and while Satisfactory looks like the closest game visually to Foundry, I would say that Foundry gameplay is more of a free attempt at Factorio rather than attempt to copy Satisfactory. And today, I would try to answer several questions. Should anyone consider purchase of this game in the future? Is this just a shallow clone of other games? Or Foundry is the game with innovations and interesting features to discover? I have completely finished demo in 7 hours, and it was one rather immersive play session. I totally forgot to get my lunch, so this is already a great sign for a game. But before we get into the good parts, let's talk about all the bad things I have encountered during this demo. After all, this is the alpha build of the game, and it is really important to look for the things like game performance, game settings and options, and overall state of gameplay loops. So let's start with Foundry game options and performance. Game was able to distinguish between my secondary 4K screen and primary vertical 1080p screen with no issues. It launched on secondary 4K screen, and this is great since not every game can do such a simple thing. Well, like understanding that people usually do not play games on vertical screens, so there is that. Another great thing to see is vanilla FPS limiter that is must-have option for any early access title in process of optimization. Unfortunately, there is no field of view slider in the game, and vanilla field of view is unacceptably short. We yet to turn this moon into Mumbai after all. Considering game performance, it loads 4070 in 4K to at least 50%, with all settings on highest except when clouds are on insane setting. With insane clouds, GPU goes to 100% load permanently, which is a bad sign. Foundry definitely needs more optimization. On this system, games like Cyberpunk 2077 never load this GPU more than 30%, and majority of modern games can barely load this GPU beyond 10% in 4K 60 FPS. Only games I have seen loading this GPU to 100% were Valheim and Kerbal Space Program 2. Both are not the best examples of game optimization, to say the least. But outside of excessive GPU loads, game runs solid in 4K 60 FPS and only lags during explosions. Explosions definitely kill FPS and need more work. Next on the list are UI and keybinds. UI looks like programmer art placeholder, which is normal for an alpha build, and for the most part UI gets the job done. There is not enough information on crafting resources and output ratios in the UI. Often you need to search for this information in sub-UIs of the buildings, and this would be a big downer in later stages of the game if you need to plan a big factory. Initial game tutorial is really bad at giving you keybinds to start the game. There is no big highlights in the middle of the screen for mentally challenged apes like me, and keybinds. Keybinds is the biggest issue of this game right now. This is a huge section, and it will take several minutes to go through. If you are not interested, you can use chapters to skip to the next part. Keybinds exist in a vacuum, and only familiar concept here is WSD keybinds for the movement, and the first one of them is B for the inventory. Why? Alright, tab key is being used for toolbar swap. This is fine. I can get behind this B key decision if I key is also used for something else important, but it is completely blank. We live on a very simple planet where majority of video games use either I or tab keys for inventory. Please don't invent the wheel. Muscle memory is a thing. Next one. Foundry use C key for crafting menu. Also, crafting menu opens up inventory, and I have no idea why crafting menu cannot be merged with inventory like in Factorio. Game have no crouch, but still using keybind C will bite your Chrome droid back. And prime example of that are the ladders. Ladders work not like in any normal game. Here you need to press W to move up and S to move down. If you try to press crouch to move down like in any normal game, hey, you just opened crafting menu. Not ideal. Next big UI and keybind fail are pipe rotation controls. Once again, here we have wheel reinvention for something that was solved like 30 years ago. For example, if we take voxel game from the last decade like Space Engineers, well, in Foundry there is no visual cue to orient your rotation baseline. And bear in mind, Space Engineers also need to work with character rotation in 3-axis on top of 3-axis block rotation, so Foundry have a simple challenge to tackle. Space Engineers use functional key block with page up and page down keys, and this achieved miracles for block rotation in 3-axis. It just works. Why? Well, with Foundry keybinds you need to look on your keyboard, find those atypical keys, then lift your left hand to use those keys and to look on screen for the results. Then repeat this process several times. In Space Engineers, you just lift your right hand from the nearby mouse and have all 3 axes available in separate 6-button key block. Clean and easy muscle memory, and you can totally do this in a dark room. If you want to make game for 40% keyboards with no functional keys, well, then you can just use buttons Q and E alongside already used R. This is also works, and do not force your hand from WSD position. And also, I know that E is already used as one of the primary actions, but for that you can just use button F as very common option in every single game out there. And also you can just use double binds for different modes of the game, why not? And speaking of main action, mouse buttons cannot be rebinded. Well, this is bad. 21st century, please make it happen. Using third-party software like AutoHotkey to rebind mouse button 1 is not fun. Please allow us to rebind mouse buttons to keyboard. Quick action menu. Once again, we have some bizarre wheel reinvention. Please use normal copy-paste shortcuts. They are also known as Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V. If you need extra action, just use Alt-C and Alt-V. They are also used commonly in software as an extra copy-paste option. If you did not know, Ctrl-Q shortcut is commonly used to close application in games. Developing muscle memory for copy-paste action that do exist as exit action elsewhere is not fun. Don't use Ctrl-Q just like you will never use Alt F4. This is a bad idea. And this is all about controls, but I'm honestly a bit puzzled. I cannot see normal game developer making so many out of context unique choices. It looks like a deliberate sabotage attempt or general lack of gaming experience. Just use commonly used keybinds, please. And finally, we have arrived at last accessibility issue with Foundry, and this one is related to gameplay itself rather than to keybinds. And the issue is that you cannot rearrange or stop inventory crafting, or at least I was not able to do that. A bit annoying and sometimes can lock you up for several minutes. Alright, so with all boring stuff out of the way, let's talk about the game itself. In Foundry, the whole world is destructible. You collect resources, convert them into items, and later create even more complex things with the next steps in production chain. Items need to be transported on the belts, and those belts have limited capacity and can be upgraded later. Factory automation game in its finest. But how it is different from other similar games? Unlike in Satisfactory, in Foundry, your machines have omnidirectional in and outs. Absolutely awesome, and this is proper transition of Factorio top-down concept into 3 dimensions. Also, logistics hub with integrated storage container is, well, oh man, this is my wet dream for Satisfactory. This thing is such a nice addition. Beltwork and science research are simplified copies of Factorio systems in general, and it feels like we are lacking one resource lineup to be on the same level of complexity. Also, there is no fancy animations that one can expect from 3D version of Factorio, but even if that was a thing, I cannot say that I pay any attention to fancy Satisfactory animations thousands hours later. After all, main beef of factory automation games are simple math and logistical puzzles. Did I found any in Foundry demo? Well, unfortunately not really. Once I got handle of the beltwork, there was nothing to crack and everything is very straightforward. I can totally see myself making some sort of centralized personal storage like in Satisfactory, but outside of that, there is no interesting things to make in Foundry right now. But this can be an issue of the demo itself. After all, we are talking about early tutorial-like progression, and not everyone comes from the background of 1000 hours in factory automation games. There are only 2 tiers available in the demo and only 6 resources implemented if you count water and biomass. Compare that to 7 tiers in Factorio or 8 tiers in Satisfactory, well, you get the picture. There is a glimpse of oil-like resource in the tech tree, and one can expect developers making way more resources and tiers as early access will progress, and with higher tiers we can see different combinations of resources making up for the lack of those math puzzles initially. But there is more important thing to consider. We already have explosives in the demo, and trailer showcased some sort of droid assembly line. Will this game have any survival-based defense elements? I would dig that for sure, and you can totally blow up buildings right now, so there is a groundwork for that. And the main challenge here would be for the developer to balance the certain playstyles, like for example digging into a hill or a mountain or completely going underground. Defending small choke with towers would be too easy, and well, 3 dimensions and ease of digging add a lot of protection. Or maybe, instead of survival, we would go on offensive and assemble armies of droids to purge local fauna and flora. or maybe both. Then there's one Foundry system that is somewhat unique. There's two different systems for electricity and power. First, you have foundations that act as low voltage conduits powering your early game factories. This can be a bit annoying when you need to connect remote parts of the factory. In this case, you need to have these huge foundation snakes, which is not pretty, or then you need to just dig a trench and make the foundation flush with the terrain, which is a bit tedious, but whatever. And later you get access to power lines and high voltage power transfer. You can generate high voltage power and then transport it with the power lines and convert it into the low voltage with transformers. And transformers have maximum capacity. So this actually looks like an interesting puzzle for quite basic system, and this is so far the only interesting puzzle I can see in this game. But with total lack of further progression, I cannot see would this system be a tedium busywork or something interesting. Then there is the water, or well, complete lack of water mechanics. Water does not act as a fluid and will not fill up canals and caves. This is definitely some sort of the placeholder system, maybe it will change in the future. And this is it for the gameplay. On the front of the box there was only two, and this was two classical fall under the textures in 7 hours, and the second time I have deliberately made this happen. If you try to construct dirt pillar, at some point your character will randomly shift backwards, falling down, and this way you can force yourself into the textures. Good thing that you will not fall indefinitely, but rather teleport on top of the map. So this is Foundry right now. Will I buy this game in current state? Well, nope. Will I get this game with 3 tiers with the oil? Probably not. There is a lot of questions how many extra things this game will tackle. Right now this is very basic 3D factory automation game with graphics that look like something from 2013 rather than 2023. If this game will have interesting takes on transportation, will have more tiers and some sort of factory defense, then I can see this game in my basket. And by the way, there is a jetpack in Tech 3 in the demos, so I think developers are working on those transportation features. Game ran decently on rather beefy system, but well, my main concern here is the Paradox publisher. While Paradox have audacity to troll AAA industry for loot boxes and gambling, well, their games are turned into the glorified season pass with sludge of paid DLC patches, which would be fine if not for the diminishing quality of main releases in last 5 to 10 years. To some extent they apply this model to their publishing branch as well. Just look at the quality and amount of City Skylines DLCs, and this was before Paradox actually got greedy and sloppy. So I personally will be definitely very cautious about Foundry until 1.0 release, because well, it is too easy to make factory automation tiers into paid DLCs Paradox style. So this is that. Now it all lies on shoulders of developers and their ability to be in line with pricing of titles like Satisfactory and Factorio while delivering interesting game. This was Foundry demo. Thank you very much for watching. Have a nice one, and Yakis out.